Okay, this is going to be a speedrun commentary for all Kilton medals, which is a category extension in Breath of the Wild. I'm going to be doing commentary over a recent PB. All Kilton medals is essentially the all bosses category for Breath of the Wild. It's named after an NPC, Kilton, who shows up at night around the major towns in the world. And in post-game content, he offers you medals for going out and killing all the overworld bosses. So there are 3 Kilton medals, one for killing 40 Hinox, one for killing 40 Talus, and one for killing the 4 Molduga. So that's where the category extension gets its name. If you played Breath of the Wild casually, you'll kind of know that the challenge of doing a run like this is the weapons in Breath of the Wild aren't particularly powerful compared to these bosses, and also Breath of the Wild has weapon durability. So as you're going around killing bosses, you're going to keep breaking weapons, and the challenge of early routes was where do you get a constant stream of powerful weapons? A couple of years ago, we had a route that duped the Royal Guards Claymore a bunch of times, and that brought the category down to around 3 hours. But with a glitch that was discovered last summer, we rerouted this category and saved over an hour, so that a world record right now is just a little north of an hour, 45 minutes. And the way we're going to do it, the way we're going to kill all the bosses really fast, is we're going to craft the most powerful weapon in the game. And you might think Breath of the Wild doesn't have a weapon crafting system. It doesn't. It's a new glitch that allows us to do that. So there'll be time to explain all of that. We'll start off with that after the opening cutscene, we clip out of the Shrine of Resurrection in order to skip some other cutscenes. If you watched Player 5's any percent run at GDQ, he went the other direction and climbed out into a snowy area in order to skip this opening cutscene, opening cliff cutscene. There are a lot of opening cutscenes in this game. But we want this opening cliff cutscene that we're going to watch from Out of Bounds because it activates the time of day cycle. NPC Kilton only shows up at night, so we need time of day in order to be able to speak to him. In addition, there are 10 stall noxes that count as the 40 high noxes that you need to kill, and they only spawn at night. So that's why we need time of day here. So after watching the cutscene from Out of Bounds, we'll just side hop out and begin collecting materials to perform the glitch. The glitch in question is called inventory slot transfer. And specifically, we're going to take advantage of it and a derivative glitch called weapon modifier corruption. Which is what's going to allow us to create a weapon that will one-shot every single boss in the game. So the materials and weapons that you see being collected here are usually typical of a speedrun, but they're also going to serve a dual purpose as as allowing us to be able to activate that glitch. The one weird item might have been that tree branch that you saw me pick up right out of the Shrine of Resurrection, and that's because inventory slot transfer, or IST, requires a one-handed weapon as part of its setup, and so that tree branch is the fastest one-handed weapon that we can pick up. So the weapon we're going to craft is an ultra-powered bow of light. So normally the bow of light is only available sort of as a gimmick weapon when you face Dark Beast Ganon in kind of the final fight of the game. And the bow of light is restricted to that fight. The game removes it from your inventory when you try to continue into post-game content. Okay, but IST is going to let us circumvent that, pull it out of the final fight, and then we are going to modify its properties in order to get it's somewhere like at least a 200 power bow that shoots infinite arrows, has infinite durability, and can one-shot every boss in the game. Okay. So a lot of things happened there while I was explaining weapon modifier corruption. A repeating theme that you'll see as I play through the plateau section of the game, which is essentially the game's tutorial section, is getting skew and using that to clip through walls. Skew is a property that Link obtains when he shield surfs onto a surface, bonks his shield, and the game forces him to put that shield away. For some reason that we don't quite understand, even now in the game's lifespan, is that the game will save the angle that Link is at, like the angle that his character model is at when he bonks his shield. And then the next time we shield surf, the game remembers that angle, pulls it back. And so we can get Link's character model to kind of snap quickly into a different position for like a couple of frames. And that snapping ignores collision, and it's kind of what we use to clip through walls and what I use here to just clip into the bomb shrine. One of the features of this run is that it's done without activating the tower. And so if we don't activate the tower, we can't activate the shrines by going up to their pedestals, and so we need to clip into each one of them. So right there, we did a trick called a Whim Bomb, and then we are doing our second bow lift smuggle slide. The first one was done on the way to bombs. There'd be plenty of Wind Bombs and BLSS slides in the run for me to explain some of the nuances of the mechanics there, but suffice it to say that those are going to be the two main movement glitches that we use in this run. So the bomb shrine is complete. There are 3 other shrines on the Great Plateau that we need to complete in order to advance the game. And we're going to do them in the order of the Magnesis trial next, followed by the Stasis trial, and then the Cryonis trial. Here's just some old man dialogue that we're going to mash through. I mentioned we're skipping tower, which is why we're going to be clipping into all 4 shrines on the plateau. What that means for a category that is as expansive as this, right? So the 84 bosses that we have to kill are spread across the entire map. And so we're going to be visiting kind of every corner of Hyrule here. So we're traveling a long distance, and we're going to be doing it all without any warp points, because in this game, the towers and the shrines are essentially the warp points. There are no other kind of warp points in the game except for the Divine Beasts, and we're not going to be doing any of those. So we're skipping the tower because there's a long cutscene to raise the tower. Then you have to kind of wind bomb over in an invisible wall to get past it and progress the game. So we save like a minute and a half in cutscenes by skipping the tower, but then the cost is trying to figure out a fast way to travel around the world when you don't have warp points. Now, we have Wind Bombs and BLSS, but that's not always enough. Usually in Breath of the Wild speedruns, doing anything warpless is really tedious. And so the solution we came up with that in order to retain the time save from skipping Plateau Tower is really neat and super is unique to this category. I can't really think of another category that takes advantage of the mechanic that we're going to use later on. Okay, so we did a BLSS to the Magnesis trial, clipped into Magnesis by setting skew on the side of the shrine, and now I'm just going to run through the shrine. In shorter categories and in the especially any percent speed run, there's a wind bomb to the end here that saves about 7 or 8 seconds. Here, I'm not going to do that just because failing it loses like 30, and instead to just run through. There, I did a shield jump over the gap that normally the game wants you to kind of like use Magnesis and move a slab into place to create a bridge for yourself. I unequipped shield there in order to retain the skew that I got to enter the Magnesis Shrine. So one of the kind of neat things about the current plateau route is we can reuse the skew that we used to clip into one shrine and use it in the next shrine. That wasn't always possible in our plateau routes. We used to have to reset skew and attain it again for every single shrine. And so that saves a little bit of time. Here, there's a little bit difference from the any percent run where I run behind the shrine and I'm going to grab these 5 high roller herbs. They're going to be a little bit of a backup food on my way to Kakariko and finishing the Great Plateau. And also, again, fuel fodder for the IST glitch later on. This BLSS slide from Magnesis to the tree here is probably the most difficult movement in the Great Plateau. We are going to slide up this hill, which requires some speed and some constant wiggling to get up the hill. Like it's definitely not a natural movement, and then you have to dodge all these rocks and these trees to get to this location, where we're gonna climb a tree and then do a wind bomb off the tree to get up to the cliff where the stasis shrine is. This is here I actually bail on the first attempt on the wind bomb because I noticed that my timing for the first bomb was off, and so I canceled it and redid it. Okay, so at this point I still have the skew from clipping into the Magnesis Shrine, so all I have to do is set my angle against the wall of the Stasis Shrine and clip in. The Stasis Shrine is another shrine that in any percent we would do a wind bomb to the end. This being a longer category and time save kind of less important, I'm just going to run through. Of the 4 runes that we obtain on the Great Plateau, I think Stasis and Magnesis are probably the most useless in this run. We don't really use them. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think we use them at all after we leave the Great Plateau. Bombs are definitely super important because bombs allow us to activate the BLSS slides and they allow us to wind bomb. Cryonis is useful in some cases for just creating like a platform for us to wind bomb off of, but otherwise it's not really used. And again, Stasis and Magnesis not that used at all. Okay, that's the Stasis Shrine. So 3 out of 4 shrines done at this point. So the last shrine is Cryonis, which we're going to get to by charging up a boulder. Oh, I guess this is one use of stasis. We're going to charge up a boulder and ride it up the cliff, and then we're going to do another slide over to the Cryonis Shrine. But for this run, again, highlighting differences between this and any percent, we're going to stop by the Great Plateau wall that's right below the Cryonis Shrine, and we're going to pick up 5 bomb arrows. Okay. The bomb arrows are going to be really, really important in this run. Not only do they do more damage than normal arrows, but they're extremely important in waking up the taluses so that we can snipe them from a long distance. Okay, so here I had a bad angle coming off of this slide and ran into that wall and kind of dropped the slide there, so I have to come back and reset. We are in a cold area at this point. Having trouble again getting the slide going. We are in a cold area in this point, so Link is taking cold damage. Link ticks down half a heart every 10 seconds. And this is where sort of the backup food is going to come into play. Now, if you do this segment cleanly, you can avoid eating at all. But in this case, with kind of 2 failed slides, I'm definitely going to have to eat some food, and I think I eat the steak here, yeah. The steak there, which we picked up in the Bogo camp, is expendable. Okay, there's a certain amount of food that we need to retain all the way to Kakariko. So even though it seems like from my inventory I might have a lot of food, I actually can't go below a certain amount, or else I won't have enough materials to do the IST glitch. Cryonis is a quick last shrine. I'm going to grab the rune here and then do a wind bomb up to the monk pedestal. So in this run, kind of only bombs. I only do the wind bombs in the original bomb shrine and in Cryonis. So after this, the plateau is basically complete. We just have to slide to the Temple of Time and talk to the old man to get the paraglider. So this might be a good time to start talking about what IST is, what WMC is, because it's a complicated glitch to understand and explain. So IST was discovered, I think, around June of last year, and essentially what it is, it's an inventory manipulation glitch. We essentially trick the game into miscounting the number of item slots that are filled up in your inventory. And what that's going to do is we're going to be able to carry items over from save file to save file. So if we activate the glitch and then reload a previous save, then we can transfer items from where we were to a previous save. So essentially duping item slots. And we can do any slot like this. We can dupe weapons, we can dupe materials. As a consequence of that, when we transfer items over into another save, we cause a desync in the game's memory, so that some items are lined up with other items. So for example, like a bow could be in the same inventory slot as, say, like a food item or fairies for something. And when we cause that kind of desync, the game keeps updating these items with the values that they think it should have. So for example, equipment gets its durability updated fairly often by the game. And if we can get the game to write a weapon's durability value onto a material slot, we essentially can set the count of that particular item. And so one thing we're going to do with IST is we're going to get 999 fairies. And that will basically solve all the food routing challenges that were part of Breath of the Wild speedrunning for a really long time. In addition to that, because of a peculiar way that the game loads in food items, IST is going to allow us to transfer data that's associated with cooked food onto a weapon. And when we do that, the game misinterprets that data as weapon modifiers. So in a kind of curious way, like the data that food has in terms of its sell price and I think its heart recovery value gets interpreted by the game when it's applied to weapons as modifiers to that weapons. So modifiers like the bow like if it's a bow, modifiers like the bow has zoom, that the bow can shoot more than one arrow at a time, and also the attack power of the bow. Okay, so and that's a big summary of just saying we're going to get a bow, first the Phrenic bow in Kakariko, and then later the bow of light out of the Dark Beast Ganon fight, and then we're going to basically transfer some food data onto them, and then that's going to be interpreted as weapon modifiers to make really powerful weapons for ourselves. So after getting the paraglider, we do a slide to the outskirts of Kakariko and a wind bomb up to this hill. This hill has an item for us, as well as a chest containing a Phrenic bow. The Phrenic bow is a long-range bow that has 45 durability. And so this is going to be the first bow that we corrupt, we say, to in terms of modifying its attack power and abilities and such. So after that, we come here to the fairy fountain, where we're going to pick up the fairies that we're going to they're going to power us through the rest of the run, as well as the final materials that we need in order to activate the glitch. So some blue nightshade, a second fairy, and then we're going to run behind this tree here. There's an Endura carrot. That's going to allow us to cook stamina refilling food. And then over here, there are 3 silent princesses, which we mainly want because they sell for a decent amount of rupees. They're 10 rupees each. And also just as a final material for IST. Okay, so the next roughly, I want to say like 10 minutes of gameplay are going to seem a little opaque if you've never seen this glitch performed before. There's going to be a lot of inventory manipulation, selling of vendors, saving and reloading. I'll try my best to explain what each step actually does. But as I've heard from people when this glitch was first discovered, it does have the flavor of something like Reverse Bottle Adventure from Ocarina of Time, which is it's a lot of actions that don't really make sense in gameplay, but then result in sort of these powerful weapons and this duping of materials. Here, I'm cooking 6 sauteed peppers here. 1 cork of IST and specifically corrupting weapons is that we have to cook the maximum amount of food that's allowed. In this case, it's 60. So we have to get to 60 food. And the 6 spicy sauteed peppers are going to get us to that goal. Here, I'm trading in the 4 spirit orbs that we gained from the 4 shrines on the Great Plateau for a stamina upgrade. We just don't want... mainly, this is to take the spirit orbs out of the inventory so that they don't get in the way of everything else that we want to do with IST. Having a little bit of stamina is nice. We don't want to upgrade any hearts because we're going to have 999 fairies, so really health is not going to be an issue. So this segment of the glitch is what we call breaking slots. So these are the actions that confuse the game about how many items are going to be in our inventory. And the way that kind of works is we do this series of inputs to put Link in a state where he is holding items in his hands, but can also interact with a shopkeeper. And so when we sell off those items to the shopkeeper and Link drops them on the floor simultaneously, the game sort of double counts them leaving the inventory. And so now there are more slots in our inventory than the game thinks. And sort of that is the mechanism that drives the glitch. That input to talk to the shopkeeper is frame perfect, although it's a frame perfect in that like you have to do 2 inputs, like one right after the other, really really quickly. So it's not that not as challenging as other frame perfect tricks can be. And all of the items are set up so that we get to 60 rupees exactly, so that we can buy this Hylian hood. Can now reload the save back into Kakariko. So with slots broken, now every time we reload, we are transferring items from our inventory into the reloaded save. Another consequence of that is that in this case, we transferred an armor piece, the Hylian hood, into a save where we had yet to discover the armor tab. And what that does is it sort of glitches the cursor out. So in a little bit, you'll see sort of the cursor doing some kind of funky things. And that's a result of this glitch too. But it's not just like an unwanted side effect. We're actually going to take advantage of the glitch cursor. Okay. So I'm going to run to the cook pot here, shooting down to 1 arrow. And we're going to save here and reload. And so here's how we're going to use that glitched cursor. So there are items currently in our inventory that are getting in the way of like the most efficient process that we want. Specifically, the Sheikah Slate, the paraglider, our regular arrows, and now this Hylian hood. So the four things that like we would really like to be out of our inventory. Normally, you can't get rid of the Sheikah Slate. It's a key item. Once you get it, it's there forever. But when you have a glitch cursor, what you can do is you can take the prompt from one item slot and then apply it to another item. So there, you're just seeing me eat the paraglider because I've glitched the cursor out. So the game thinks it's hovering over a carrot, but really the cursor is hovering over the paraglider. When I press A, the game brings up the prompt for the carrot, which includes the option to eat. If I choose that while the cursor is actually over the paraglider, we end up eating them. So that entire sequence right there, which went by faster than I could explain it, was to kind of clear out those key items in our inventory. So now that we can dupe things faster. This was just a quick save and reload. Remember, every time we save and reload, we are duping things in our inventory. Specifically right now, we're duping the food that's at the end of the inventory, and that's in order to get to that magical 60 number. Okay, here's one more application of the glitch cursor. We want to cook the meal that's going to have the properties that we want to transfer over to the bow. That meal involves holding 3 roasted Endura carrots, a fairy, and a blue nightshade. Now, roasted Endura carrots are normally something that you can't actually hold in the game. They're a food item. You can't hold food. You can only hold materials. But with the glitch cursor, we can apply a hold prompt from a material onto the roasted Endura carrot, and that cooks the meal with the specific properties that we want. Here's another save and reload, just to dupe some more food. Okay, now here we're going to chow down. We have the 60 food, and now we want to, all that 60 food was just pure setup. We want to clear out that food in order to set up for the second part of the trick. So welcome to about 20 to 30 seconds of Link just eating. Okay, after all of this eating is finished, we're going to cook our stamina recovery meal, which will also be duped. And then we're going to do some inventory manipulation to get everything in the exact right order that we need in order for the magic to take place. Going to clear out our inventory of a couple of useless items, drop things on the ground, and pick them back up to reorder things. Stand in specific spots so that we can pick up this pot lid without Coco talking to us. This is the dropping and picking up is sort of, I think, what is reminiscent of Reverse Bottle Adventure, probably. I don't know. I don't play Ocarina of Time. Okay, with this save and reload, we're going to take some actions that are going to kind of lock all of the dupes in place. So when all this is over, we're going to have 999 fairies. We're going to have 999 stamina recovery foods. And we're also going to have our first, what we call omega bows, meaning a bow that has been corrupted so that it has increased attack power and shoots 10 arrows at a time. Here, I think the materials are in the way of me getting the pot lid. So you see that was a time loss right there, because when you pick up the pot lid, Coco wants to talk to you. We try to stand in that one particular spot so that Coco, it's just far enough away that won't trigger that Coco conversation. Okay, so here you're going to get a glimpse of everything. When I go into the inventory one more time, you're going to see that the fairy slot has 999. And that basically takes care of any health concerns that we have for the rest of the run. pick up this potlet one more time. We've been duping this potlet essentially. Because we save before we pick it up, and then we reload, so IST transfers that potlet. So essentially we turn this one potlet into 4. That's nowhere near the most impressive part about this, but it's kind of neat. Okay, I check my inventory. The Phrenic Bow, which starts off with a attack power of 10, I think, now has an attack power of 122. It's long range, so its arrows fly straight for farther, and then it shoots 10 arrows at a time. So we're actually going to employ it now, because we're going to do a little branch where we, I think we get maybe 6. We're going to kill our first mini boss as well as 5 others, and on our way to Castle. And so we're going to set up a BLSS slide from this tree stump here. I think we all have kind of a love-hate relationship with this tree stump. It is extremely convenient in terms of its location in the overworld. It's high, so you can access a lot of places by starting a slide from here. But because of the slope geometry around it, it's incredibly difficult to get a round bomb to kind of stay where you want it to in order to pick it up. And the reason why we want to use the round bomb accelerates faster, maintains its speed better than the square bomb, and you can also steer it better. Although there, you just kind of notice that I suddenly slowed down. There is a speed cap in this game. I think it's roughly the game equivalent of 360 kilometers per hour. And so fast, efficient movement with BLSS is, especially over long distances, is trying to get as close to the speed cap as possible without going over. And there are some visual cues, none that I like that much. I think that are that solid for when you're close to the speed cap. And also, by some weird property, you Link, there's some friction in this slide, so Link will eventually slow down to a stop if you don't wiggle. So you wiggle to try to stay as close to the speed cap as possible. Okay, so here is going to be the first demonstration of this Omega Bow. Wake up the Talus here by just standing next to it. We're going to exploit bullet time a lot in this run, because when you're in bullet time, enemy slows down, but you and your arrows still fly, still can take actions at the same speed. So you just saw there, 1 Talus, 1 shot, 1 boss down, 83 to go. After that, we're going to wind bomb here. This is Seren's stable. The reason to come to this stable right now is that the next boss that we want to kill is a Stalnox. And Stalnoxes only spawn at night. So we're going to take advantage of this cookpot here to change the time of day to night. And also what you see by the rocks there is a piece of flint. We're going to pick up that flint because the piece of flint would help us set a campfire later when we need to set time of day again. In fact, a good chunk of this run is done at night because of the Stalnoxes. A lot of the routing is there to try to fit as many Stalnoxes as possible into one night cycle so that we can avoid having to sit at cookpots or campfires that much. Every time we every time we have to change time of day, it's about a 15-second time loss. Okay, so 1 shot in the eye with bomb arrows kills that Stalnox. And now we're on our way to our first high Nox up here at those trees that you see in the distance. This might be a good time to talk about sort of general wind bomb movement. So this movement here is pretty much due east from the Stalnox to this high Nox up here, and heading in a direct cardinal direction. So north, east, south, or west is very slow for wind bombs. You gain a lot of height when you wind bomb in a cardinal direction, but you don't gain a lot of speed. I had some trouble getting the wind bombs in this segment, but so when we do have to travel long distances in a cardinal direction. Kind of what you'll see me doing is going slightly off cardinal, so slightly right or left of east, and maybe alternating between those two, because going kind of off cardinal is going a little off cardinal is just better for speed. Another thing to point out, at least in terms of this segment where we're still using the Phrenic bow and bomb arrows, is that you'll notice that I stay in bullet time until the bomb arrows hit. Bomb arrows, as powerful as they are, have some weird interaction with the hitboxes, especially of actors as large as the mini bosses. So that, like, without staying in bullet time, it always feels like not every single bomb arrow hits, even though it looks like that. And our theories are that it has something to do with the hitboxes or the area effect of explosions, but staying in bullet time sort of helps with that. Okay. One super important aspect of bomb arrows demonstrated there was if you shoot the ground near a talus with bomb arrows, the talus will wake up from the explosions. And what that's going to allow us to do later on is wake up taluses from a very far distance away. And we'll be able to snipe them from very far away, and that saves us time because we don't have to travel all the way to the talus, land, wait for it to wake up, and shoot it. So here we are in Lockup, which is underneath Hyrule Castle. There's a Stalnox here. If you found this casually, this is where you pick up the Hylian shield. After defeating the Stalnox, the chest with the Hylian shield appears. We don't want that chest. We don't even want the cutscene. So we're going to hop off this ledge, go into bullet time so that we can shoot the Stalnox in the eye. And then as soon as we see the purple smoke, we're going to open the map and warp out. The purple smoke is sort of the game's indicator that it has registered the kill. So, for example, if we were to, say, warp away from a kill, before we see that purple smoke, it's possible that the game won't register that we actually killed the mini-boss. There's always a small fear in the back of your mind that, because we do a lot of, like, long-distance snipes and then we wind bomb away. If we go too fast, the game might, we might get the game to unload a mini boss and possibly not register that kill, although that hasn't really happened to me in my time running this category. Okay, so here when you choose leave area in Hyrule Castle, it places you at the front gate, and so from there we're gonna wind bomb up to Sanctum. Remember I said that the Kilton medals are post-game content in Breath of the Wild, meaning you kind of have to beat the game first. So we are here going to Sanctum in order to initiate the boss rush. We're going to do the boss rush instead of any of the Divine Beasts because it's faster, but you're going to see a lot of different things from the any percent boss rush. The any percent boss rush, highly technical, makes like almost perfect use of all the resources that it can gather in a short period of time. We are just going to completely power our way through this. Right there, I jumped off a ledge and in bullet time landed on a slope surface. So I got skew in bullet time, and that creates a stronger skew. The game's going to snap Link at a much stronger angle than it normally would, and we'll take advantage of that when we see Calamity Ganon. Right there, entering the cutscene, I set my position very precisely, crouched, and shot into the arena before moving forward to trigger the cutscene. And what that's going to do right now is that the bomb arrows I shot from the Phrenic bow are now stuck in the middle of the air in this cutscene. And for some reason, during this cutscene, hitbox is still active. Windblight is still taking damage, and we basically kill Windblight in the cutscene. Okay, here we're starting to see the power of the Omega Bow. We're basically going to one-shot our way through all of these phases. Every single one of the blights has 2 phases. Each one of them is just going to take 1 shot. with the exception of Thunderblight, which needs a little bit extra. So for example, Water Blight voids out here, reappears at the front of Sanctum, one-shot kills Water Blight, and we're on to Fire Blight. Fire Blight phase 1 is more of the same, just walk away a little bit to not get caught in the explosion. Oh, so there I didn't get the one-shot. Again, like some aspect of the bomb arrows, whether it's area effect explosions or the impact kind of jostling, I guess, the hitboxes of a large actor like Fire Blight, just kind of knocks it out of the way so that not all of the arrows hit. Here's something I learned from routing this category that I hadn't before. Bomb arrows pierce the shield on Fire Blight, so we get to one shot without having to wait to use a remote bomb to break the shield. With Thunderblight, we need to break Thunderblight's shield. Thunderblight's shield blocks everything. And so 2 hits from a 2-handed weapon will break the shield. We knock Thunderblight down, and that opens us up to just using our Omega Bow to finish the phase. Thunderblight is definitely the trickiest of all of the blights because of that shield, and also like if you kind of mess up the cycle here, Thunderblight's movement gets really unpredictable and hard to manage, not to mention the impenetrable shield. So that was just sort of the intended casual way to knock Thunderblight down. You're supposed to use Magnesis there. Put a metal rod next to Thunderblight so Thunderblight shocks itself. Okay, so now we are into Calamity Ganon. The best RNG here for Calamity Ganon is if it gives us an attack that leaves fire on the ground, because then we can use that to float up and activate bullet time. Didn't get it this time, so we're just going to strafe and just shoot our Omega Bow. Phase 2, Calamity has an invincible shield, which we're going to knock down by first parrying this laser. And then after parrying this laser, I'm going to activate what's called a skew bounce. So the strong... now I remember. Okay. So the strong skew that I got can initiate a bounce up in the air high enough that we can activate bullet time, and then we finish the entire phase in bullet time. My D-pad messed up there, so I wasn't able to get the shield unequipped that I needed to initiate the skew bounce. And you only get one shot at it. You can't get this skew bounce again. So instead, I'm going to have to parry my way through the rest of this fight. Okay. When Calamity is glowing orange like this, there's just it just won't take any damage. So you have to parry every single attack, which drops the shield for a little bit, and then we can damage Calamity from there. So that was a bit unfortunate. Like the Switch Pro Controller D-pad is sort of known for being a little finicky, and like you press D-pad left, and sometimes it registers D-pad up, which for precise tricks like I wouldn't call a skew bounce that precise, but when you need to enter an input and you only get one shot at entering the input, a missed input kind of really messes you up. All right, so we're almost done with any percent at this point. This is the Dark Beast Ganon fight. How a lot of mainboard categories, how a lot of Breath of the Wild categories end. Although this is still like before the halfway point for all Kilton medals. Again, we're here because we need to enter a post game in order for Kilton to offer us those medals, and also we want the weapon that's on Link's back right now, the Bow of Light. So the nice thing about the attractive thing about the Bow of Light is that it has infinite durability. So the game simply doesn't subtract durability when you shoot the Bow of Light. And plus, the light arrows that it shoots have no arc to them. They just fly straight forever, which makes aiming extremely, extremely easy. On top of that, the Phrenic Bow that we got in Kakariko has only 45 durability. And also, even though it's a long-range bow, eventually its arrows are going to curve. And so 45 durability isn't enough. We could dupe the Phrenic Bow to get multiple copies that would last us throughout the rest of the run, but we would need to save and reload anyway to do that. So why not take advantage of the save and reloads that we're going to do anyway, and instead pull the Bow of Light out of the Dark Beast Ganon fight. The way we're going to do that is when the last shot on Dark Beast Ganon comes up, I'm going to pause and I'm going to unequip the bow. It's that simple. Basically, the game is programmed to remove the Bow of Light from your inventory if it is equipped. Okay. Now, normally, failing that wouldn't even matter. So if you just did this on your casual playthrough, the game would just end anyway, and your inventory would get reset when you reload or continue your last save. But with IST active, certain slots in our inventory are going to transfer when we start a new game, and we're going to make sure that the Bow of Light is in those slots. So I'm going to eat 3 food there to just to make sure the spacing is right for IST, equip the Phrenic Bow, unequipping the Bow of Light, and finish the game. So from here, we're just going to skip the endgame cutscenes, and then going to reload our save. And what you're going to see is that I'm going to have the Bow of Light in my inventory after I continue. Now, this Bow of Light hasn't been corrupted yet. It hasn't been modified. It still just has its normal attack power and infinite arrows. So we are going to do IST one more time, manipulate your inventory a little bit in order to corrupt the Bow of Light. And the Bow of Light is going to go up to, I think, something like 212 power here. I'm being kind of very careful with my inputs here, just because failing at this point, you're 45 minutes into the run. You don't really want to fail just because you mismenued at one point. Okay, so with that reload, when I reload here, you should see that I now have. We ended up duping the Phrenic Bow, so now we have 2, and then we have a superpowered Bow of Light, which we're going to demonstrate when we get to this talus right here. In addition to the Stalnox that was in lockup, Hyrule Castle also has a talus that's underground. So we're going to run here and just take this minecart. This feels really quaint, like we have all these advanced movement techniques, and for this part of the run, we're just going to take the minecart like the developers intended. We're going to take the minecart to get to this talus here, bomb arrow to wake it up, and then you're going to see the first application of the Bow of Light. So that's the Bow of Light shooting 10 arrows at 212 attack power for each arrow. Sometimes the game's audio kind of glitches out because it's not expecting to do the audio for 10 light arrows at a time. That updraft connected us to the Hyrule Castle library, and the library's ceiling is open, so it gives us a way to wind bomb out and continue the run. So you remember I set night at Seren Stable for that Stalnox. We're still on the same night cycle, and there's a Stalnox here to the east of Hyrule Castle, which we're also going to kill here. Killing a Stalnox is a little bit weird. Stalnoxes can be one-shot if you bomb arrow their eyes, and that only applies to bomb arrows. Any other type of arrow, even the light arrow in the eye of a Stalnox, won't kill it. It'll just sort of stun it and knock it to the ground. So when we can, we will use bomb arrows on the eye because then it takes only one shot. But that Stalnox in particular is always hiding its face inside some trees. So what I did was shoot it once with a Bow of Light to knock its HP all the way down and get it to turn, and then at that point an eye shot will kill it. You might have seen there that when I just wind bombed, I opened the menu and ate my stam food, and the stam food didn't disappear. So just pointing out again, we have a stack of 999 stam food, which essentially gives us infinite stamina. So 999 fairies, which is essentially infinite health, 999 stam food, which is infinite stamina, means we can do these wind bombs and stay afloat for a really long time, and that's what you're going to see me do. So after wind bombing out of the library, I haven't landed yet, right? I wind bomb out of the library, killed the Stalnox midair to the Talus, killed the Talus from midair, and I just killed this Hinox. I'm going to kill one more Hinox before landing. This is another example of cardinal movement. We're kind of going south, so what you'll see me is going slightly off south, off to the right, in order to get better speed. This Guardian here is not one of the mini bosses, but it always kind of ends up targeting me when I get to this point, so I'm just going to kill it from midair to make sure it doesn't mess with this next part. I picked up the Hinox Guts. That's required when we meet Kilton in order to get the medals from him. And then here we're going to activate a slide in order to get to the next Hinox. Sort of with wind bombs and BLSS being our two main movement techniques, there's always sort of a tension between which one you do at any given time. A big decider between that is distance. This movement from the blue Hinox we just killed to this red Hinox here is pretty long. And BLSS is better at like maintaining a high speed over a long distance. So roughly around, I think in my timings, roughly like if you need like 3 wind bombs to travel a certain distance, that's roughly around the break-even point where switching to BLSS won't lose you any time. After 3 wind bombs, if it takes 4 or 5 wind bombs to make a particular movement, chances are BLSS is faster. The exception, though, is when we need to gain height. BLSS goes in a straight line, maintains the same height all the way. Wind bombs are our main method for when we need to gain height. So here we're going to kill this black Hinox here, and then we need to gain a lot of height. So this is going to be, I forget how many, like 3 or 4 wind bombs, but the movement's not possible with BLSS because we have to go from the low point with that black Hinox all the way to this little plateau with a blue Hinox. With a lot of wind bombs, what you'll see me do is angle the camera up before detonating and launching Link, and the reason for that is to reduce lag. Lag will mess with the calculations of the Breath of the Wild physics engine, and it won't allow the wind bomb to go off correctly if there is lag. So often you'll see me drop the 2 bombs, point the camera up before detonating, just because there are less things in the sky, less things for the game to render, and less lag. This is also fairly long distance movement, but we're going to do a series of wind bombs rather than a BLSS because this terrain doesn't give us a good place to step up. The BLSS requires that we have sort of a ledge where Link can enter into a step up animation, and that's what triggers sort of the state that lets us float and wiggle and slide. So if the terrain doesn't allow for it, we can't BLSS. So wind bombs sort of still, even though BLSS is sort of superior to wind bombs in a lot of ways, wind bombs still maintain are still sort of our most flexible movement trick. Okay, so I just talked about lag reduction. So here's a point where lag is actually going to be our friend. So after doing this wind bomb, I'm going to look at an area with a lot of polygons and pause and unpause the game. And what that does is it's gonna generate lag. And the reason why I want to actually do that in the speedrun is because the Breath of the Wild physics engine actually has like a catch-up mechanic when it's lagging. It'll sort of temporarily speed up Link by about 1.5 times in order to compensate for some lag. And so we abuse that in the speedrun by generating it at opportune points. And then when we unpause and pull the paraglider, Link goes 1.5 times faster than he normally would. Okay, and that's called a super launch. Okay, we have one more Inox to kill in this branch, and this is going to demonstrate sort of how we're going to fast travel, even though we have no towers and no shrines. We're going to kill this Inox. We're going to wait for the purple smoke to register the kill, and then we're going to save and reload. So when you save, the coordinates that the game saves for Link are the last coordinates in which Link was grounded, and that happened right on the plateau where I killed the previous mini boss. So when I save and reload here, I essentially abuse the save and reload to warp, and that's how we're going to compensate for not having shrines and towers, and that's going to lead into kind of a very innovative section coming up, which we've done of the floor is lava. We're going to kill a bunch of... Our goal will be to kill a bunch of mini-bosses without ever touching the ground, and then either save and reload or void out in order to reset Link's position to the last time that he was grounded. And that essentially allows us to fast travel in a lot of places where we normally wouldn't be able to fast travel. It would be even faster than activating the tower and activating shrines, because in those cases we would need to actually travel to the shrines, which might be out of the way, which might not be convenient for us. So there are, I forget how many, a number of floor is lava branches in this run, and it's sort of why I said this run is pretty unique among all the Breath of the Wild categories. No other category takes advantage of save and reloading and void out exploits like this one does. Okay, so we have a long distance to go, but from here, we're going to use this Korok to initiate a slide all the way to, I think it's called West Loshlo Harbor, where there's a Hinox that's like in a little cavern where that you can see from above. We're going to ground Link in the area above the cavern, and then we're going to wind bomb away. And from there, we can't touch the ground until we get to the last mini boss in the branch, at which point we're going to drown, and it's going to warp us right back to the last coordinates that where we were grounded. So this is our first kind of official Flores lava branch. So there's the red Hinox. We're going to kill it from here. Notice here that Link was grounded there, and now we're in the air. You actually saw some like ash and flame flying in the air. That's going to be a blood moon when we come back, and I'll explain more of that when we get to it. But basically, at this point, my goal is not to touch the ground until the last mini boss in the branch. So you're going to see me midair. When I'm close to running out of stamina, I'm gonna pause and eat some stamina food. But these are kind of stressful parts of the run, in that if I fall on the ground, it's going to take me minutes to recover my position. Okay. I want Link's coordinates to be back there in West Loshlo Harbor, and landing at any single point, even landing on mini bosses, is going to update Link's position and make it impossible to fast travel. So this is Eventide Island. There's a blue Hinox here, which we can snipe from the air without landing. We definitely do not want to land on Eventide Island. There's a long cutscene to start the trial. long cutscene to leave it, plus Eventide messes with IST a lot. And then we're going to head north to Mopla Point. And there's a talus here in some shallow water that we're going to kill. And then after we kill this talus, we're going to drown. And that's going to serve as a void out. And when Link voids out, the game resets its position to the last place where he was grounded, which is right above West Loshlo Harbor. So here's a bomb arrow shot to wake up the talus. Snipe it, and then I'm going to use bullet time to drain the rest of my stamina so that when I hit the water, Link will drown and we'll warp back. Now, when we warp back, we're going to experience what we call a panic blood moon. If you've played the game casually, you'll know that every so often a blood moon event occurs, which is sort of the way a way for the game to reset kind of materials that have been gathered, enemy positions, and things like that. A panic blood moon happens when the game is running out of memory. So traveling a long distance across most of the map gets the game to load a lot of things into memory. And then at some point, I guess it forgets to clear all of that. It realizes it and then decides, I need to reset everything. And so it initiates a blood moon off the normal cycle. We call it a panic blood moon because sort of the game is panicking that it's running out of memory. It's something that can happen in these runs. It's not guaranteed to happen. It's unfortunate that it's a 10-15 second time loss when it does. So these three Hinoxes here are the Hinoxes that are guarding the Tawajin Shrine. Remember that? There's like an oldest, a middle, and a youngest. And this kicks off what's really the longest branch in the entire run. So it's not a Flores lava branch. Like I can land here, although most of the time it's just faster to midair away anyway. But basically, we're going to be curving around the entire southern part of the map, and killing mini bosses along the way. Another reason why this category is unlike a lot of others is Breath of the Wild speedrunning is usually marked by a lot of cutscenes and loading screens. So a run that does a lot of shrines will have a loading screen going into the shrine and a loading screen coming out of the shrine. And in addition to that, there are cutscenes everywhere. So there's a lot of downtime usually in a Breath of the Wild speedrun where you can just take a mental break, think about what you're going to do next. In this run, there are no cutscenes, there are no loading screens. When mini bosses die, they just die. The game continues. We never go into any shrine, other than the times where we save and reload to warp or void out to warp. There are never any loading screens, so it's an intense category to run just mentally, just because you're constantly engaged with the action. In addition, doing mid-airs is something that takes some concentration. It's a bit of muscle memory, but you do have to always think about what angle you're setting for yourself and what's the wind doing in order to be able to time the bomb placement correctly. And because you're doing mid-airs, you're never in the same spot twice precisely. When we can land and we can set Link's feet, set Link's position and angle precisely, then we can be really consistent with how Link flies. But with a midair, you're usually doing it kind of improvisationally and in reaction to all the other variables that are in place. So it's a very all Kilton Metals is a very mentally challenging run to complete. Okay, coming up, we're here at the Dueling Peaks Mountains. We're gonna make a quick stop in order to set the time of day to night again, because along this path there are 4 Stalnoxes, and we want to be able to reach all of them in one night cycle. So after this talus, we're going to go over this ridge. There's another talus behind it, and then we're going to midair over to a cook pot that's kind of at the base of the mountain. Okay, this camp also has a couple of bundles of wood. I think most of the time we're going to be... Oh, and we need to light this cook pot. This cook pot isn't lit normally, and the only thing available to us are bomb arrows, so kind of a bit of overkill to light this cook pot. I was going to say I think 3 of the 4 times that we set time of day are done at cook pots. Only 1 time do we need a bundle of wood and flint to set a campfire. But that's a convenient spot to get wood. The next movement is actually kind of difficult. I forget how I did in this PB, but we're going to head to a Stalnox here that's in the Hickory Woods. But then after that is going to be some long movement in a cardinal direction where we have to gain a lot of height. And what makes it challenging is that at night there's a crosswind here. And so when you're in bullet time, things slow down drastically, but they're still moving. And that includes like bombs that are dropped as part of the wind bomb. And bomb alignment is extremely important for wind bomb height, speed, direction, things like that. So that if the bombs sort of drift out of position, you can end up failing. But it seems like this movement was pretty clean. One thing that we need to manage in this run is the loading radius of bosses. So bosses actually have a fairly small load radius. Like you have to be fairly close to them usually. At least you do for high noxes and Stalnoxes. So like understanding kind of how far to fall, how close to get in order to get the boss to load in is a big source of time save. We're about to cross over into the Farron region here, where there are a bunch of mini bosses. One right there, you kind of see pop in. Oh, and you saw the light arrows just go directly through it because the character model probably loaded in, but not the hitboxes. Okay, so there you see another example of a super launch where I look down to actually generate lag and then pull the paraglider out of the pause menu, which abuses the game's kind of catch-up mechanics to fly 1.5 times faster. It's always thunderstorming here, so you saw me switch off of the axe to the tree branch. The bow of light, interesting enough, is not a metal bow, so it doesn't attract lightning in a thunderstorm. But it's also not a wood bow either. So later on, when we enter the Elden region, we can have the bow of light equipped and not worry about it burning up. That talus actually has its weak point exposed, so we can snipe it before without it even waking up. Waking up the taluses is an art in and of itself. So the taluses come in two types. There are taluses that have its arms sort of exposed above ground, and waking up those taluses is actually pretty easy. You just shoot between their exposed arms. But then there are taluses that don't have any of its limbs exposed, in which case there's like a sweet spot to shoot at for each one. And sort of mastering that is just comes with practice. There's a certain distance away that you need to shoot a certain side, and it's kind of a little bit of trial and error for each one about what it is. This is another example of movement that could be done with either wind bombs or a BLSS. It's like 3 or 4 wind bombs. And the BLSS is sort of break even. It just kind of, which one I do kind of depends on where I am at after killing the last high nox and how close I am to wind bombing to get to that step up spot. Okay, so that was the third style nox. There's one more. It's really far away. There's going to be multiple wind bombs to get there. But this time, no step-up spot for a BLSS option. And we have to get over these little hills, too. Yeah, that wasn't a great wind bomb. I have to land and reset. The cooldown for bombs is 6 seconds from the point of detonation. Usually with a midair, you can fly for those 6 seconds and have the bombs ready. If you fail a wind bomb, though, you have to wait for the bomb cooldown before being able to launch yourself again. And in the speed run, those 6 seconds feels like an eternity, really. Okay, finally we are here at the last Stalnox. The path I took was a little bit low and awkward, and I also ran into that cliff, so I have to improvise here a little bit by shooting it from a distance and activating bullet time from jumping off the ledge. There you kind of saw the advantage of having the bow of light. Remember, the bow of light arrows shoot exactly straight. They never arc. They're not affected by gravity. So when shooting something from a distance, it's just point and click. Like you put the reticle on the pixel that you want the light arrows to go to, and they go there. I think it's hard to quantify, but that's definitely a big time save in having the bow of light versus sort of skipping getting the bow of light and just using the Phrenic bow for the entire run. This is also the only speedrun that does this, that gets the bow of light, corrupts it, and uses it. Most Breath of the Wild categories are not combat-based. It's not a very big combat game. So in most categories, either combat is completely avoided, or something like the Great Eagle Bow, which is a reward for completing Divine Beast Va Meadow, has sufficient firepower to really complete the run. It's really only all Kilton medals where you have to kill these bosses that sort of overpower the weapons that are normally available in the game, where having this Omega Bow makes sense and saves time. This is a tricky talus to wake up. Trying to do it from a very far distance. Like, I could play this a little more conservatively and like float a little bit closer. You're trying to eke out kind of every optimization that you can. I've talked about cardinal movement in wind bombs. Remember, cardinal movement gets you a lot of height, but not a lot of speed. So like optimally, we want to be going slightly off cardinal every single time. Ordinal movement is what we call movement that's directly in between two cardinal directions. So that's northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. Ordinal movement is not that favorable because wind bombs in an ordinal direction are kind of difficult to control in terms of their direction and speed. If you're off a little bit from like true northeast, you could launch yourself really fast, in which case you run into the speed cap, or you might just launch yourself really, really slowly and just have a very slow wind bomb. So I bring that up because just then I did an ordinal wind bomb to get from one mini boss to another. That was sort of unavoidable based on sort of the relative directions of them. But when we can, we want to avoid direct cardinal movement or direct ordinal movement. There's a talus here in this lake. This is Lake Colomo, and then we're going to climb back up to the Great Plateau. We're actually very close to the starting area of the game. You see Hyrule Castle there off in the distance. There is a talus on the Great Plateau, but we didn't kill it when we were doing the initial 4 shrines on the plateau because we didn't have the firepower for it. Technically, you might have seen some speedruns in the past, some 100% speedruns that did the plateau talus early on with a sledgehammer. It's doable, but again, it's just faster to kill things with a bow of light. Okay, so there you saw that I speed capped on that wind bomb. So I tried to go slightly off cardinal, a little bit left of west. Turning the wind bomb generally produces a faster launch, but in that case, it was a little too fast. Another sort of little, I guess, another variable to keep in mind with doing wind bombs is sort of the region in the world that you're in. Wind bombs are very sensitive to lag, and there are just some areas of the game that are laggier than others, apparently. So angles that work really well in some regions tend not to work in others, and so it's just one of the 100 things you have to keep in mind when doing wind bombs. Okay, this talus also never wants to load in. In speedruns, we tend to travel faster than the game expects, faster than sort of its actor manager can keep up with things. And so sometimes we get to areas and bosses haven't loaded in yet. Here's an example of load. That was a big world load. So like your streamed, your video didn't lag. That's just the game loading the next area. Yeah, so those bombs were very misaligned. I probably shouldn't have expected that wind bomb to work. We're going to start our desert portion of this run. There are a bunch of taluses, and the 4 Molduga are here in the desert. To the right of here, you see the Gerudo Highlands. The Gerudo Highlands are one of the highest points in the game, geographically, one of the highest points in the game. And so they have... Oh, here I messed up the bullet time. Again, most bosses are killed in bullet time because everything is slowed down except for Link and arrows in bullet time. So it's much easier to hit your target when you're in bullet time. Anyway, to the right now are the Gerudo Highlands, which are one of the highest points in the game. Getting up top, where there are a bunch of taluses, is not the easiest thing in the world with any of our movement techniques. When routing this category, we experiment with a lot of different ways to get up there, and none of them were great. It's a lot of height to gain, and kind of after experimenting with a bunch of options, including BTBs and such, it just seemed like just doing a ton of wind bombs and gaining a lot of height off of them was going to be the best way. This movement here, I'm going to do in a few wind bombs, could also be a BLSS. The BLSS is just slightly not high enough to get over these hills, or you kind of have to use the geometry to give yourself a little more height. I like the wind bombs just a little bit better because then you can also snipe this talus by waking it up early. By the way, you'll see on this ledge, there's some missing polygons here. And the bomb kind of disappears into there. That's not anything that we did in the speedrun. They just forgot to patch over this. You can go to this location casually and you'll see the same thing. Okay. So from that little ledge, we're going to initiate a slide, and then we're going to go to the 4 Moldugas. We're going to take care of all 4 Moldugas, one right after the other. There's no Boris there to the right. Just kind of wandering around. And sort of that oasis there is the location of the first Molduga. It's a little tough because Naboris has this sandstorm around it. But Molduga are giant sandworms that are swimming under the sand. Bomb arrows on the ground near them will wake them up, cause them to kind of jump out and try to attack the explosion, I guess. So the fast way to kill them is to bomb the ground, wait for them to come up, and then one shot with the Omega Bow of Light will kill them. Link is also taking heat damage here in the desert. Just like half a heart every so often. But again, we have infinite health with our fairies. Failing a wind bomb here in the desert is a little bit scary just because if you land on the sand, there's not a good ledge to find quickly in order to wind bomb off of. There's a lot of open space here. Also, Link runs very slowly in sand. There you see another speed cap. So that I'm trying ordinal wind bomb here again was just like slightly off in the wrong angle. Generated a launch that was too fast and got speed capped. Okay, now here's the section of the run that's the big climb. We're heading to Gerudo Highlands. We're currently at the desert level. I don't even remember how many wind bombs we need to do. It's a lot. Okay, if you look up and ahead, there's some plateaus up there that we're trying to reach. And so this is a case of long cardinal movement. And actually, we want to go cardinal the entire time, just because we need to gain as much height as possible. Doing mid-air wind bombs is sort of an art. Sometimes you're just in the zone and you have the timing perfectly. Other times you just can't hit them at all. I lost count. What was that? Five or six wind bombs at this point? Probably maybe 7 total to get up here to this talus. And after doing like 6 or 7 wind bombs to get up here, it's going to be another, I think, 5 or 6 to get over to the next one. We're still not done climbing the Gerudo Highlands, right? So that was just kind of the first level. We still have a lot more climbing to do and 3 more taluses. At some point, I have 3 bows in my inventory right now. There are 2 Phrenic bows and the Bow of Light. I've been using this middle Phrenic bow this whole time, and the middle Phrenic bow will run out of durability before the end of the run, and it'll run out of durability pretty soon. One interesting thing about Omega bows, when they break, so when a weapon runs out of durability, it breaks, is that the 10 arrow shots that it's firing, which are all firing kind of like in one straight line, one right after the other. When the bow breaks, though, the shot is going to spread out, and you're going to get this kind of really cool effect. It's kind of like it's almost going to carpet bomb a full area. And I think that has something to do with the animation speed. So when a bow breaks, its animation is actually faster, or its animation ends faster than when you do a normal shot. And so something about when, like, the flight of the arrows is determined by when, like, when the animation for shooting the bow completes. One thing I don't know if you noticed, there's a crosswind here, and that messes with kind of wind bomb timing and things like that. So it's something that I and other runners have to keep in mind. So there you see the message that the front bow is damaged. When you see that message pop up for the first time, there are, I think, 3 shots remaining. Okay, so here we're close to the top of the map at a location called La Porra Mesa. And here we're going to set night. And this is to take care of 2 Stalnoxes coming up. This also marks the end of, like, the super long branch. If you're keeping track, I think we're 60 bosses in to this run. Okay, 60 out of 84. And this slide also triggers our next Flores Lava branch. So we're going to go around through, like, I forget what this particular area is called. It's kind of like Tabantha Ridgeland area. Kill some mini bosses, and then ultimately save and reload to warp back up to La Porra Mesa in order to continue the run. Okay, so this is also a very laggy area in general. So you'll see that when I set my wind bomb, remember I said, like, you always want to kind of go slightly off a cardinal direction in order to gain, like, a good amount of speed. But in this section, you'll see me kind of err a little bit more towards going directly cardinal, just because it's so much easier to speed cap in this area than in other areas. Okay, I think the Phrenic Bow is going to break on the next hit. But the next, like, 3 mini-bosses are going to be High Noxes, so we're not going to shoot the Phrenic Bow immediately. The Phrenic Bow is mainly to shoot bomb arrows, and not much else. Its main uses are to wake up Taluses. You can kind of see an example of the Hinox's load radius there, where it wasn't there, and then suddenly you drop a little bit, and then it suddenly shows up. In this empty grass area, there's another one. There it is. With most mini bosses, we don't stick around to really see the purple smoke. We kind of just trust that it's going to happen. But every single boss does have a little death cry, and if you hear that, usually it's safe to wind bomb away. Okay, so here I'm not wind bombing away because this is the end of the branch. We're going to save and reload, and that will warp us back up to La Parra Mesa. And we want to gain all that height back because we're going to be initiating a BLSS all the way to Hebra. Generally, in Breath of the Wild, like, height is a resource that you have to manage. So if you have height, you don't really want to give it up without good reason. So, like, going down and up, very costly. So if you have the height, we'll use it, and we're going to use it to go from basically the southwest corner of the map all the way to the northwest corner. This is, again, a long slide where we're trying to stay as close to speed cap as possible without going over. I mentioned that I didn't really like the visual cues that exist for this. Those are either you can look at the bomb trail, and the bomb trail looks like it's not moving still, then we're fairly close to the speed cap. You can also look at the mini map. Normally, like, the arrow that represents Link's position and facing is in the center of the circle, but the faster he goes, that gets knocked off center. So the further that Link is, that arrow is off center, is an indicator of the speed. There's an interesting thing on that slide where if you go too far left and get too close to Meadow, you'll trigger a really long world load. So I was also trying to navigate around that. There you saw the Phrenic Bow break, and then the spread 10 shot, which is kind of cool. Okay. So that was Cold Snap Hollow. That was a Frost Talus that was down there, but we want to gain some more height so that we land at the top of Hebra Mountain. And we're going to ground ourselves up here and trigger a couple of Flores lava branches. The first one's going to be short. There is a Stalnox that is in the far northwest corner, and we just need to go kill it and then warp right back. So it's a very far distance away, so we're just going to slide over there, kill this one Stalnox, and then void out and come back. And then we're going to start another Flores lava branch right afterwards. Here's a bit of RNG factor, and it's the weather in Hebra. Right now it's snowing, and so visibility is really low, and sort of I don't know if you can see it, but there are two kind of glowing ores there that I use as a visual cue to know when to drop down. But I think on the next slide the weather is going to be roughly the same, and In that case, there really is no visual cue, and so it's just kind of guesswork to figure out when you've gotten to the right place. If you get lucky and there's clear weather in Hebra, obviously none of that is an issue. So that void out brought us back here, and then we're going to initiate a slide from this tree again. I think one thing I want to try routing-wise is to see if like any of the rocks in this area can be used to initiate a slide. The trees are reliable in that they're always there, but they're somewhat finicky, and it costs time to like chop them down every single time. So here you can see sort of the lack of visibility here. I'm trying to find a talus that's below me in the Tepantha Hills. It's next to a waterfall, and I think, during this run I had no idea where I was. So I decided to drop down. I realized I'm still too far north, and then I have to wind bomb south to reach the talus. So this is a Flores lava branch. I can't touch I can't touch the ground in, or else I'll lose the coordinates back up on Hebra Mountain that I want. We used to do this branch in a slightly different order, but I recently rerouted it, again taking height into consideration. So you'll see that like every single talus I go to is at roughly at the same elevation, or it's going down. Again, height is a resource. You don't want to go down and then back up, just because falling down takes time, and then the wind bombs that will gain you height back up are also slow because they don't cover a lot of horizontal distance. I've been talking for a while. I'm really feeling it right now. More bad Hebra visibility here. We're trying to get around this mountain. There's a black Hinox behind it. And then once we get there, we're going to turn right back around. Head back in the direction of Hebra Village. Not Hebra Village, Rito Village. You'll see that for most wind bombs, I do a little bit of turn before detonation. The point of that is just to adjust Link's, the angle in which the bombs collide with Link's hitbox. I don't know if it's that well understood, like why that increases speed or why that makes wind bombs a little bit more consistent, but it does. It's pretty much always worth it to add a little turn into the wind bombs, with the caveat that sometimes that adds too much speed and then you speed cap, which I did just a few seconds ago. This is this is a tough section of this one because there's a very strong wind in this canyon here. So when possible, you want to try to get a wind bomb that has enough speed to get past it. In this case, I didn't. I attended an ordinal wind bomb, which I remember I said can be very inconsistent. Like you can get a fast launch or you can get like a super slow one like I did there. So I risked doing a wind bomb in the middle of the canyon with all that wind to try to get past it fast. Okay, now we're going to go through this narrow canyon to Gisa Crater, where there's one talus, and then we're going to void out. Yeah, this is another tricky talus to wake up. You have to find the sweet spot. You see me drifting away. There's a cliff over here that I'm gonna fall off of in order to void out, and I want to be over it when the talus dies. Okay, so we're gonna warp back up to the top of Hebra Mountain again. And from here, this is another short little branch, but we're making our way to Eldon right now. So the remaining bosses that we have, and let me just double check how many more we have to go. We have like 10 or 11 more bosses to kill, and they're all in Eldon, which is the volcano region of the game, and then Akala, where we're going to finish. And we're losing a little bit of height here, but still going to be enough to get across the map and over to the Eldon region. In between, there's an area of the game called the Typhlo Ruins. This is the Dark Forest. So if you played it casually, if you run into the Typhlo Ruins, like everything is black. There's no light, so you have to carry a torch in, and there's sort of like a little path maze that you need to traverse in order to get to the High Nox and the shrine. Here, we're going to first fly over it, and then we're going to land on like this stone pillar. We're going to ground ourselves there, and then we're going to wind bomb back into the dark woods. We're going to shoot the High Nox from midair and then save and reload to warp out. The Typhlo Ruins are also why this game is why we're playing in English. So again, if you've watched any percent, that category is played in French. Breath of the Wild is kind of unique in that different categories have different fastest languages, and that's all based off of voice and text cutscenes, and the differences between different languages. So for any percent, it's French. For something like All Dungeons, it's Italian. For all Kilton medals, luckily we get to play in English because of the Typhlo Ruins. So when you see Link drop in the Typhlo Ruins, you're going to get a text cutscene about something. Welcome to the Dark Woods. And in English, there is one text box here. And in other languages, there are two. And these text boxes are long enough that make English faster than any other language. I say luckily that we get to play in English is because there's a complicated IST weapon modifier corruption setup with a lot of complicated menuing. And so being able to do the run in a language that I can read is pretty important for not making any mistakes. You'll see that sometimes in different categories that runners will play in a language that they know in order so that they don't lose any time to menuing. Okay, so that was a save and reload, and that will put us back onto this rock pillar, and then we can head into Eldon. If you play the game casually, you know Eldon is a hot region. Link starts burning up when you enter, and so at first you need to get like a fireproof potion from someone at a stable in order to be able to survive, and then you buy special armor to survive. Well, we have 999 fairies, so we are just going to let Link burn because Link will live through it. So that was the first Igneo Talus that we killed. We're going to head over here to a little cave on an island that you might recognize as the place where you rescue Yunobo in the game. Since we haven't triggered any of the quest progression, this cave is open, and there is a chest with 10 ice arrows in this cave that we're going to use. So everyone's made this mistake at some point. You've drawn a bow with bomb arrows equipped in Eldon. it doesn't go well. You explode. The bomb arrows explode instantly in the Elden heat. So we can't use bomb arrows to wake up the Igneotalises. But luckily for us, Igneotalises do wake up when hit with ice arrows. So those 10 ice arrows will now take the place of bomb arrows in our run through. And we're going to use our Phrenic Bow to hit the Igneotalises while they're sleeping. That'll wake them up, and then we'll switch to the Bow of Light to snipe them. One nice thing about ice arrows in this case is that you just kind of have to hit the general region of the Igneotalus in order to wake it up. It's not like bomb arrows where you have to hit like a very specific spot for the taluses to wake up. Just like the ice arrows, anywhere near on their body in the region of the Igneotalus will wake them up. You'll see me also shoot the Phrenic Bow, and then I'm going to float around with the Phrenic Bow for a little bit. There's no worry about the Phrenic Bow really burning up. It will start burning, like you can kind of see, but the burn timer is 30 seconds long, and we're not going to have the Phrenic Bow equipped for that long. It won't be equipped for long enough for it to actually burn up. And once again, like the Bow of Light, not a metal bow, but not a wood bow either, so it survives the heat of Elden. Okay, this is the last Igneotalus. I'm trying to snipe it from as high up as possible because after this I need to turn around and do a bunch of wind bombs over to our first boss in the Kala. And that will end... I guess I should have mentioned, this is also this has been a Flores lava branch. I can't land. So we're going past this bridge into the Kala parade grounds and killing a Hinox, and then we're going to save and reload back to Yonobo's cave. This is another long movement that would probably be faster with BLSS, but since it's also in a Flores lava branch, we can't really... there isn't a great safe place to land in order to trigger a BLSS. So we're going to take a bunch of wind bombs. And the last Hinox in this branch is just between these trees here. And so like before, we're going to save and reload. Okay, last branch. If you're noticing from the splits, I was behind this entire run, and then I sort of made it up in the last couple of splits. So I have a bunch of time save. There are a lot of mistakes early on in this run, so I'm hoping to improve this PB very soon. Okay, so a super launch there will get us to this Igneotalus. And then we're going to wind our way into the Kala region. We're going to set time of day one more time because there's one more Stalnox to kill. But also, we actually, we're at the end of the run. We actually haven't met Kilton yet. So we first need to meet him at, I think it's called Skull Lake, which is like far below the Zunakai shrine. And we'll talk to him there, and that'll kind of initiate sort of the conversation about do you like monsters and all of that. After talking to him in Skull Lake, he'll then show up at any of the major town areas. And we're going to kill a couple more mini bosses and then meet Kilton again right outside of the Terrytown location. Terrytown right now doesn't exist in this playthrough because we haven't done that quest, but he shows up there anyway. And that's where we're going to ask him to give us our medals. Oh, some mismenuing there. So here's the first meeting with Kilton. You get a little glimpse of him, but I turned the camera this way because I'm about to run in this direction. So I just pre-turned the camera so I can just hold it up on the stick. Kilton is really fascinated with monsters. He asks you, do you like monsters? When you say yes, he gets upset and says, I definitely like monsters more than you. Okay, so I think we are 2 bosses away from the end. Okay, there's a black Hinox that's up here. And after that, we're going to slide across Akala to the final boss, which is a Stalnox. If this were a live run, there is a little bit of nervousness about whether or not we've hit all of the bosses. Generally, in running this category, I haven't really found that we win bomb away from any boss fast enough for it to unload or for the game not to register that you actually killed it. But I know, for example, in 100%, there's always kind of a fear that Kilton won't give you all 3 medals. Okay, so that Stalnox was boss number 84. And Kilton's location is just over this hill, underneath the bridge over here. And I think I'll do one more wind bomb to get there. Yeah, you see like the lit up hut there. That's Kilton's shop. And we're just a couple of menus away. We do need to sell a monster part to Kilton before he reveals that he has these medals for us, and then we'll just menu to the dialogue that will grant us all the medals. Timing ends on when you receive the last medal, and so we usually say that's when sort of the item text box comes up and becomes confirmable. So that was all Kilton medals. Thank you so much for watching this entire commentary. I think it's a fantastic extensions category for Breath of the Wild. It has a lot of strategies that are unique to it. And it definitely, for me, has been something I've put a lot of time and effort, and I also received a lot of help from the different community members in crafting this. And yeah, with that, that's the 3rd Kilton medal. Usually I open up the inventory just to confirm for verifiers that I have all 3. And yeah, that's all Kilton medals. Thanks for watching.